Okay, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Early Childhood Education Industry Night. This is a joint venture by JobStreet, by Seek, and by Workforce Singapore. Now, very glad you could join us this Friday evening. Now, please, we want to keep this session, intimate. We want to hear your questions, so feel free to move forward and engage in the conversation that we're going to have here tonight. Now, as I mentioned, this is a joint venture by JobStreet, by Seek, and by Workforce Singapore. We've had a few of these in the past. We've talked about digital, we've talked about hospitality, and now we're shifting to another growing industry, and that is early childhood education. And indeed, it's been mentioned that this is a space that's going to see increased growth and increased demand for teachers in the following years. It's our hope that you all gain some valuable insights from tonight's industry talks and that they guide your career decision-making, and will be providing you with a few resources that you can take beyond this session to guide your decision-making as well. Now, before we begin, I'd like to just show you a little introduction about what JobStreet by Seek is and the work that they do.
World full of uncertainties. The best defense, adaptability, as we head to uncharted territories. Transform to create a new tomorrow. Adapt to advance. Adapt to help ourselves and others grow, evolve, expand. Advance society, ignite career passions, and move businesses forward. We are JobStreet, part of Sync, a global business powerhouse. And we're advancing rapidly, so you can too. For over 20 years in Asia, we've connected with 42 million candidates, partnered with 1.35 million employers, grown our staff strength to over 1,300 employees. We're part of Seek, a global company with a portfolio of online employment marketplaces operating across Asia Pacific and Latin America, including Seek Learning, which connects people with quality education opportunities. Seek Business, a marketplace for selling businesses and franchises, and Seek Volunteer, Australia's largest single source of volunteer opportunities. Seek also has investments in several early-stage businesses through its ownership stake in the Seek Growth Fund, which invests in online education, HR software as a service, and contingent labor. Seek's origins are in Australia, and it has evolved into a leading tech company investing in technology to create innovative products to advance business growth and people's careers. So we evolved with a human-centric approach to make a positive difference in the communities we serve, to make lives better. We are committed to promoting fair hiring practices in our employment marketplaces and minimizing our environmental impact. We are helping people adapt and close the skills gap so employees and businesses can seek new ways to thrive. We adapt to unite people and businesses, enhancing the performance of organizations. Advancing people's careers and businesses' growth is at the heart of what we do. Move forward with us and experience new possibilities.
Okay, so if you are just joining us, whether physically or virtually, once again, welcome to our Early Childhood Education Industry Night, a joint venture by JobStreet, by Seek, and by Workforce Singapore. Now, in terms of how tonight is going to go, in a very short while, you're going to hear from two industry leaders. They'll be sharing their experiences with you. We will then open up the floor to a Q&A session where we can, dive a little bit deeper into some topics that you are interested in. And then afterwards, we're going to hear from Workforce Singapore themselves and some of the initiatives that are available to you. And this will be followed by our networking session just outside, where you have the opportunity to meet with some hirers in this industry and get a bit more information. So moving on to the first portion of tonight, and that is, of course, the panel discussion with our two industry leaders. I'd just like to take a moment to introduce them. We have Miss Angeline Goh, who is the Senior Center Leader at eBridge Preschool. Now, Ms. Goh organizes or manages a large children's center that works with over 800 children. She's worked to improve the curriculum, and I think she takes pride in her holistic approach. She engages in dialogue with both parents and teachers and gains advice, feedback, and a greater understanding from these interactions. Joining us as well, we have Miss Lorna Poon, who is the Sales Manager of Corporate Accounts at the KLC International Institute. Ms. Poe has 35 years of professional experience in preschool education, and she also has expertise and leadership in corporate management. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving them a warm welcome to the front. Now, ladies and gentlemen, while we're having this panel discussion, please make sure you scan this QR code so that you can ask our panelists questions during the Q&A section. We'll be, as I mentioned, we'll be looking at that towards the end. Now, Ms. Goh, Ms. Poon, very nice to have you here with us this evening. Shall we just give your mics a quick test?
Mic test.
Mic test.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one.
Hello. Hello.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us to talk about early childhood education. I think you both agree, a very meaningful field, a very meaningful industry. Before we get started and dive into the nitty-gritty of the industry, do me a favor and please introduce yourself and the kind of work that you do on a day-to-day basis. So you, Ms. Goh.
Okay, maybe you can call me Angeline.
Sure.
It's a bit more-
Keep it informal. Yeah.
It's intimate. Okay, so I'm Angeline here. So actually a senior center leader. I'm currently working with eBridge Preschool. So my largest portfolio is, what was screened earlier. I actually run a preschool that holds over 800 children. So you can imagine a compound, a campus that have 800 children with over 120 staff. So that's my biggest portfolio. So under my role, I also look after little schools. So they are actually what we call schools ranging capacity from 200 to 400 children. So that's the main part. So I look after the operation of the school, how daily, rostering of the teachers to come to work, the curriculum, the pedagogy, getting children and parents' involvement in the school activities.
Okay.
That's the main part of my work.
Sure. Thank you very much, Angeline. Miss Poon, how about you?
Okay. Hello. Good evening. My name is Lorna. Currently, my job role with KLC International Institute, I'm the corporate service sales manager. So my focus is primarily involved in the recruitment of, all this preschool entrance into the sector. Be it they can be like self-fund or be it they are under the company sponsorship. So primarily I facilitate to really help them in the pre-course counseling and at the same time also to really guide them towards the choice of their courses they're keen to take on.
Sure. So it strikes me that we really have both sides of the coin in the sense that we have almost corporate management and also the training school perspective. So I suppose the first question I want to ask is, for those looking to enter into this industry, are there any requisite skills or criteria or qualifications that you are looking for and perhaps that you, Lorna, can provide through your schooling? So Ms. Goh, how about you from your side as a hirer? What do you look for?
Okay, so when I interview teachers, right, I think the first thing we look for is the passion to work with very young children. So preschoolers, they have infant care and we have preschool teachers. So they actually are 18-month-old for the childcare side and 0 to actually about 17-month-old for the infant side. So maybe I share a little bit why I started this industry. So after I finished my, my education, there was a period of time when I was waiting. So I have a very short stint with MOE where I was employed as a relief teacher. So during that time, I was taking a class of primary 2. And that got me excited thinking about, how do I make education and learning meaningful and contextual for the children? So that got me excited. And I was thinking that time when about 20 years ago, there was an opportunity to decide between early childhood as well as with NIE as a primary school teacher. So comparing these two, right, I decided that I want to venture a meaningful pathway into early childhood. It means that I get to work with children during their fundamental years. That's where the value system, the lifelong learning skills, the ability to think beyond just learning develops. So that's the skills that we want people to have. That means you really have a heart to work with very young children You really want to be involved in their holistic development when you invest time and energy to work with children throughout your day.
Sure, okay. Sorry, sure, okay, understood. So how does Lorna, how does this translate from your perspective? How can you meet this kind of demand from hirers?
Okay, so for prospective candidates, importantly, they have got to meet the course entry requirements stipulated by the authority. So primarily, we are actually providing training for WSQ Teacher Certification Program. So the course entry requirement is set there. They have got to meet the course entry requirement provided depending on their educational background and at the same time their so-called profile, okay? So whether how enthusiastic and keen are they to join the sector.
Now, actually, I'd like to just dive into this point a little bit deeper, if you don't mind, Lorna. So for instance, say that you are working outside of the industry, you don't have that exposure to education necessarily. How easy is it for you to kind of begin this training and then make the jump into the sector?
Okay, it depends on the individual. So like what they can consider, we have got different level of training, a certificate level and also diploma level. But still back to the baseline, they definitely need to meet the course entry requirement depending on their education level. Okay, so we can start with certificate, they can proceed on to the diploma level.
Okay, so to clarify, it still seems you need to acquire the relevant qualification,
Yes, you're right.
chiefly the
Yes,
qualification.
yes. So basically, the certificate is actually endorsed by ACDA, Early Childhood Development Agency, and also at the same time, the qualification, WSQ qualification, also they set certain entry requirement criteria. So importantly, the two primary areas is number one, they must have a certificate, a formal schooling certificate, and at the same time, a very important component is called the language proficiency. So be it you sign up for the English courses or the Chinese courses, language level, proficiency level. So this important requirement must be there before they can sign on to the program.
Sure. Now, between the two of you, you have some 50 plus years, right, in early childhood education. Sorry. So, but I mean, there's experience and wisdom there, right? So in the course of your careers, how have you seen early childhood education change and shift? You know, we talk a lot about digitization and you know, the influence of technology on our lives. From the beginning up till now, what are have the requirements of teachers changed over time, or is it still a very traditional role? And Julie, I guess you would have you know, having these dialogues with teachers currently. What's your take on this?
Okay, maybe I share from a personal point of view. So I think when I first started the industry, it was about 20. So I was just having the same conversation with a group of educators. So when I first started in the industry, I was not given a letter of notification. It means that I finished my diploma in early childhood. I applied for a company and I worked there. So there was no clear definition of which classes or which level I can take. So ACTA was actually established in 2013. So within a period of time, all preschool educators, we have to go through certification, meaning to say that we all have to submit our qualification, our certification onto a portal, and ACTA will tell us whether you are EY1, meaning to say that you can have education or experiences with children 0 to 17 months old. So if you're EY2 trained, you can take up from 0 to 3 years old. Level L1, that's what we call, you can take up to nursery, and K1s and K2s from 0 to 6, it will probably be L2. So we were given different types of certification to let us know which level we have taken. So progressively, I think ACTA has a lot to play in terms of, you know, helping the teachers to get trained, to get the certain specific skill sets, training involved, so that we are equipped with the knowledge, the skills, and the strategies to take on the levels that we are working with.
Okay, so you mentioned that there are these strata, if you will, right? So if you have these certain qualifications, you can work with this age group. Okay. So how does that translate to your work in KLC, Lorna? Do you also kind of separate out the different strata and have different courses for each?
Yes. Okay, so basically, let's say any newcomer on board, so when they make inquiries about the course, so the most importantly, we will have to guide them because they are altogether three category, three level. So whether they are focusing on very young, kids, we call it infant toddler. So they can actually sign up for this highest infant care. They can be a certified infant care teacher. Okay. On the other hand, if they are keen enough to, let's say, take a older age group, okay, let's say from infant all the way to, we call it N1 or 36 months, or the other way to put it is like 3 years old and below, then they can sign up for another higher level, the advanced in early years. And for those who are very keen, very so-called, ambitious, they want to go to a very high level, there's a diploma in teaching level, it's spread over from 18 months all the way to 6 years old. So it depends on their personal interest. And then another major consideration is the time commitment. So normally when they come on board, so because the period of study is long, okay, the higher the level, the longer the duration take. So it depends on the personal time, okay. So whether are you serious and keen enough to put in a lot of effort and time to go through a very vigorous and long duration versus a very short course. It's all very important decision making. Okay, because it's a high commitment, especially for those with young children at home, with families, they really need to really seriously consider carefully. Because along the way, if something happened, you want to withdraw, sorry, no certification. So these are the major consideration.
Sure. Now we've talked about credentials, right? Let's shift focus a little bit. What kind of soft skills are necessary to not only thrive in this industry as a teacher, but perhaps have the longevity of a career in this industry? Angeline, what kind of qualities do you see in your teachers that you want perhaps new applicants to also carry forward or bring to your school?
I think the most important quality that we look for in any educators, every industry is sustainability. How long do you want to actually sustain in the industry? It depends a lot on this keyword that I brought forward earlier, passion. If you are passionate enough, the industry is not always, smooth sailing. Your day with the children, there will be ups and downs. There will be times where, you really wanted a time out. But I think passion is one soft skills, or I don't want to say it's a soft skill, it's like adaptability. You keep moving along with the children, even with the changes of the time, with new implementation, with new SOP in place. You adapt and you learn how to actually manage the different expectation of parents, of your management, and of the children as you go along the years.
So, Lorna, again, kind of like a similar question, but let's shift focus. Instead of entering into industry, let's move a step backwards. As an applicant into your school, you mentioned, you need to meet these kind of minimum requirements, but I assume you're also looking for a kind of more ephemeral quality for your students, as in like the soft skills that they bring, or their personality, right? What kind of qualities do you look for in that sense for
So
your students?
basically, so again during counseling, so early childhood educator role is definitely very, very versatile. Okay, so I think generally, important number one, the personality. So usually as an early childhood educator, you really need to have the personality in terms of your so-called, very positive, and at the same time, very receptive, to young children, especially also to work together in collaboration with the parents. Okay, soft skills, communication skills are very, very important. Yeah, and then from the personality side, definitely you have to be like extrovert. Okay, you cannot be like shy and passive. No, no way, no way. Okay, so so important. So you have to be extrovert. You have to be creative. Lots and lots of qualities. Like the principal will also look forward to really decide whether you are suitable enough to enter into this role. Yeah, as a teacher, early childhood teacher.
So we focus a lot on the demand for teachers. Are there any other roles that are beginning to spring up? Because I know that there is demand, there's new schools being built, there's demand for teachers, but this requires a kind of support network in the industry. Are there any other roles that are beginning to kind of appear as we make this transition?
I think recent years, ACTA have introduced different type of roles, but it's actually not it's like a new hire. So interestingly, is ACTA recognized that the preschool teachers are actually jack of all trades. They are really good at being versatile, being adaptive. So what they have added these 2 years that we are recently working hard on is what we call ICO, Inclusive Coordinator. So there has been an increase of children with needs. So to actually meet the needs, right, we actually need a person who is trained in early childhood, who is able to work with identifying children with needs and, helping them to receive strategies that help them to thrive in our setting. So ICO is a new initiative that ACTA has launched recently. Another one is the environmental coordinator. So this is actually more so of the center leaders to take on this role. The role primarily is actually to look after the cleanliness, the tidiness of the center to ensure an optimal learning environment for the children.
Okay, and does that also feed forward into, for instance, sustainability? Like how involved is this position with other kind of requirements of schools today?
Actually, all centers in Singapore, you need to have this two-person employed with you. So they will be your center leaders who are looking after the environment. They will be educators who are stepping up to do the ICO role.
Okay, okay. Now I'd like to maybe zoom out a bit into look at the industry as a whole. What have been kind of the greatest challenges you've seen or the kind of barriers that you've seen in early childhood education? It's quite a general question, but perhaps if you can speak to a personal story, if you've seen any difficulty in your own experience in the industry.
I think over the years, if I were to just think about it, my journey actually started at the beginning preschool educators. So when I first started out in the industry, I was actually an assistant teacher, meaning to say that I assisted teachers to look after the children, I will look after, like the preparation of the paperwork and all, not so much of teaching. So I think the greatest challenge is, but we built very, very good relationship with the parents. I think there was a bond between the children and I because we spent a lot of time together. We spent a lot of time, helping the parents to understand how children learn. I think as the year goes by, now that I think about, 20 years down the road, the relationship between a parent and the teacher have changed. I think parents naturally they are more educated. They are more aware of what are the resources that they can go out to, what are the relevant agency that can help them to understand how different schools are operating. So it's actually to me when I observe it from my angle, running a preschool, helping parents to understand the hard work that the teacher does. It could be working with us or working, we are trying to make partnerships. So I think parents is one of the greatest challenge that we have to work with.
Now, Lorna, is this something that is taught? Not to phrase the question bluntly, but do you teach how to interact with parents? Or is this a more something that's developed over time?
Okay, as far as the curriculum, the training program, there are very variety of modules. Okay, then importantly, there's a very important module, communication. Okay, communication, relationship with the parents. So they will learn. Okay, they will learn, and importantly also a very important module, practicum. Practicum is a very important module that sits inside the whole entire curriculum, where the students will definitely need to be attached to the preschool center. If they happen to be working in the center, they go back to their own center to really prepare themselves for the practicum. And the purpose of the practicum is to really, really assess them that at the end of the day, they have to put all the theories into practice. They have to do it. Okay, so in this practicum processes, they will have lots of opportunity to do the relevant communication, look at things from different perspective. Yeah. And I think coming back to challenges, so usually when we counsel the student, especially when they are going to embark on this vigorous program, they have to think very carefully how to balance, okay? How to balance and how to juggle their so-called family time and be it their study time. Okay, so most importantly, when you're on course, other than having to commit yourself to online courses to study, at the same time, courses come together with assignment. Okay, this is a graded, a formal assessment, either be it the individual project as individual assignment or the group project assignment. So all this is time. Everything got to do with study is time factor. So whether you make sure that you organize yourself well enough to really have the time to put aside to do your assignments. So from the challenges of as a student, you really need to do your own preparation and making an effort to really make sure that you're going to go through the course in that sense. Mm.
So let's look at specifics here. Say I want to change industry and I enroll in the course. What kind of time commitment am I looking at?
Come again?
So say I enroll in your course, right?
Mhm.
What kind of time commitment am I looking at?
Okay, good. So it depends on the duration of the course, okay? Example, if you're going to do a certificate level, advanced in early years, it's a 10 months full-time, every day affair, Monday to Friday, half a day. Okay, so means half a day, let's say you are on your own, you pay on your own. So half a day, you literally have to put aside time to do your study, online courses. And then after that, you have to also make very sure that you also put aside time to be able to do your assignment, to prepare assignment and to do the assignment. Okay, so therefore, importantly, they make very sure that they can be successful. They make sure they have to plan their time management very well.
So because it is quite a long period of time,
Mm.
if I'm, for instance, I want to transition from, say I'm still employed, for instance, can I do this on the side part-time? Is that feasible? Is that a feasible option? Or you're really looking for 100% commitment during these 10 months?
Okay, so when you mention about a part-time is the duration of the course, okay? Definitely example, a full-time course is 10 months full-time. However, if I so decide to pick up the part-time program is like spread longer, 16 months. Why? Instead of 5 days a week, you're going, or 5 lessons a week, you're going to do it 3 times a week. Let's say in the evening, after work, you come for the class in the evening. So it will be stretched longer to a 16 months course because the total contact hours of the course remain. Okay, if it's a 600 hours course, you definitely need to put aside time, either part-time 16 months or example full-time 10 months. And then also another major consideration, most of the time very challenging for full-time student, I mean for full-time working adult, if they embark on a part-time program, then they make very sure that they have to put aside time during the practicum hours, practical time. Right? It's all in the evening, center closed. You cannot go to the center. So therefore, during the practical module, you have to literally take leave from your work. You have to apply leave and make sure that you have to be based in a childcare center, preschool center for the full day, Monday to Friday, 8 hours daily. This is part and parcel of the course structure, cannot change. You see, so usually most of the time we are going to remind them, you sure, can you take leave to make sure that you are going to fulfill the practical hours as well.
So forgive me for being a bit naive here. Early childhood means from what age to what age? At what point does early childhood education end, for
Okay,
instance? Yeah.
early childhood, in the context of early childhood, is basically the starting point is 2 months, all the way to 6 years old.
Okay.
Early childhood is before your formal schooling, before the primary one.
Okay.
Preschool years, we call it preschool years.
Yes.
Preschool years.
Okay, so because that's quite a large time frame developmentally, are there unique challenges associated with, for instance, the very, very young children as compared to when they are 6 years old, and then, there's a bit more of the critical thinking coming into play and you want to develop those skills. So how would you, if I was a teacher, how is my approach changing from younger students to the older, relatively older students?
Okay, maybe I understand. It's just my personal perspective. Interestingly, I always have this thought in my mind. When we work with the infants are actually what we have the 2 years old all the way to the 17-month-old. So it's at the stage where they are meeting a lot of developmental milestones. They are learning how to talk, they are learning how to communicate, they are learning how to actually walk. Physical development is the easiest to actually, identify. You look at how the child is able to actually do a first flip, how the child actually can sit up, by himself or herself independently, or can pull up a bar to stand up. So cruising. So these are the ones that are easier to, identify because it's developmental milestones. But what we think that preschool years or infant years are the most precious to us is because there's a lot of wiring of the brain that's going on. So interestingly, I always believe that there should be more focus on the infant care education, because that's where if a very skilled educator is able to pick up what the infant is trying to communicate with us non-verbally, there's so much potential for growth. So that is the part that I feel that a lot of us can actually invest time and invest the kind of resources that we need to train our infant care educators to actually learn how the infants are actually trying to communicate with us, trying to interact with us. As the year goes by, the children are becoming more and more vocal. So when we ask questions, they are actually able to reply us in the way that they understood the question that was being posed. So a lot of problem solving, a lot of strategic thinking. But interestingly, that is a stage where the focus will be on the infant, because these are the ones that we are learning to actually understand and, to appreciate that the way that they are reaching out to us.
Okay, understood. So at a certain point, they begin to be able to articulate themselves better, right? Easier.
Communicate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, Lorna, how do you then prepare for teachers who deal with the very young, so perhaps the not able to articulate themselves as well, versus a teacher who will work with 6-year-olds? Is there quite an extensive difference between the training?
Okay, sorry, I can't answer very accurately because I'm not a trainer, okay? So generally, the course structure is such that every different modules, different specialist trainer. It's a module, by module. They will learn by module. So if they happen to be studying module child development, so the specialist will go through all the developmental stages, everything about child development, the psychology part, the learning part. So different modules, different so-called expectation and, evaluation. And the contents are entirely different, but it's all related to the age group. It's all related to the age group. Mm.
Now, both of you are in leadership positions, right? So if I was trying to break into the industry and I wanted to have a general awareness of how the industry is changing, what are the requirements, I'm curious, what strategies do you each use to stay abreast of what's happening in the wider early childhood education scene?
I think for us is we always have constant thirst for learning. So I think we don't just stop learning when we finish our diploma, we finish our bachelor, our masters, or even our PhD. There's always a constant wondering of what else can I learn more. So I think what else can we learn more comes in different forms. We network, we talk to people from our industry, we talk to professors, lecturers, what are the current updates that we actually have. So I don't think learning just stop when we finish education, but it's constantly engaging with different stakeholders. I think even with families, right? Parents are actually good resources as well. When I converse with families of the schools, they actually can give me a different perspective of what else they can bring to the child's education, because they will know the children better than any educators that have. They spend most of the time with the child at home, and they give valuable insight of some ways that they are working with the child that can help us to understand their child better. So I think to answer that questions, right, it's really like constantly looking out for new initiative that different relevant government body has actually initiated. So learning doesn't just for the child, right, just doesn't stop because we are reporting to ECDA. We are also working collaboratively with Health Promotion Board to bring educational strategies to the children. For example, dental health and eye and health, eyes vision screening. We also work with different NEA agency. So there are different government agency that we work with, and we want to bring educational resources from this government agency to the young children as well.
Now, Lorna, do you have a specific way of essentially doing the same thing? How do you stay abreast of these changes?
Okay, so just now you mentioned about the awareness, okay? So for new entrant into the sector, into the industry, if they're very keen to embark on a full-time job, so there's this opportunity for them to be under a program called the Career Conversion Program. So whereby, so once they have already signed up the program, we will facilitate to help them to do a job matching. So when the employer, so-called, decide to give them an opportunity, they can do work trial. Okay, so this work trial primarily, it depends on the company, maybe 1 month or 2 months, to literally let you immerse into the working environment, to see for yourself, to understudy like mentoring. You can see the key teacher, they can see exactly what they are doing. So if you are going to enter this field, you do exactly like them in the future, because by then you are a certified teacher. Okay, so the awareness, your induction into the work trial period knows very well whether you really ultimately can survive in this sector in that sense, okay? Yeah. So it's an eye opener for them. So, but most of the time, if they think, especially our profile of the student, most of them either if they are parents, they have their own children more or less they 50% or so, should know exactly how children behave, things like that. And on the other hand, also we do have like what you call this, practitioners, so they really send, or rather parents send their children to childcare center, every day they can see for themselves. It's there already, exactly what the children are being guided and taught, and how the teachers, work. So more or less they have an idea in that sense.
And of course, the goal isn't just to bring in teachers in the short run, right? But it's to bring in teachers for the very long run. So why have you both, kind of stuck with this career? Why are you so passionate about early childhood education?
Okay, I think first thing, early childhood education, the sector is growing very, very rapidly. Okay, there are a lot of employment opportunities out there, and government is also behind it. Okay, so in terms of like they're providing cost fee funding, especially they encourage even homemakers. I must highlight homemakers when the children are growing up independent, they really seriously consider re-entering the workforce. And for mothers, okay, so there's a very good opportunity that they have brought up their own young children. They are really serious enough to re-enter the early childhood sector. Okay, so I think generally it depends very much on the individual. So early childhood sector is growing very rapidly, plenty of employment opportunities, but you must ask yourself an honest question. So you think you are able to, make sure that you're able to really understand very clearly exactly the job role is very important. And in fact, all of you here can also go into the ECDA portal, ecda.gov.sg, all the whole list of job description is all there. Exactly what you're going to do daily, lesson plan, so on and so forth. So more or less you have an idea exactly what's the job role of a teacher.
Now, Lorna, you mentioned the fact that the government is behind, people going into teaching. How stable is it working in this industry? So for instance, we just came out of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Was teaching still a very in-demand job, and how did the kind of requirements of the role change during this time?
Okay, so during the COVID, pandemic, all the students, they actually, we convert, okay, into online lessons. So generally, they survive, they're still picking up and still doing very well. And so in terms of their so-called progression, okay, I think if you're looking at the career pathway, the career progression, so for sure, those serious educator, they look towards another high level called leadership. So they want to eventually also want to manage a center, want to become a principal. They can actually upgrade. They can actually upskill themselves to become a principal one day. Okay.
So Angeline, let's revisit that earlier question. What have been the pulls for you to kind of stay and work in early childhood?
I think over the years, I came into the industry knowing that, I really wanted to work with children. I think all those years, I was very privileged to actually work with different educators that sustain my passion. So until today, I'm still very passionate to know how each child, in the classes are actually thinking and learning. So I think the whole idea why I stay is because I really enjoy working with children. Sometimes I'll just jokingly telling my teachers, when I have to do classroom observation as children, I have to go in as center leader to observe how the teachers are actually applying the teaching strategy. So I will position my camera to look at the children, and I forgot, I said, oh, I'm supposed to look at how the teachers are doing the teaching strategy and not how the children are learning. I said, okay, I better go back to the teacher and look at how the teacher is, facilitating the questioning or how this, asking the children to look at the materials and all. So it's the passion to think about, oh, how children are actually learning because they're very unique individuals. And to me, it's every child has the right to a good education. So the very strong belief kept me in the industry for the longest time.
Okay, thank you very much to you both. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please have a round of applause to both of our industry leaders? So with that, we're going to open this up to a Q&A. Now, I believe there will be a roving microphone, but just to get things started, questions have been coming in through the QR code. So I'd just like to begin by saying we have a question here from Alan. So Alan asks, how does your organization foster career growth and professional development for educators, is there any room to move around in terms of progress? So I think maybe Angeline, you'll be better suited to answer this question to begin with. So just to rephrase, how does your organization better foster career development?
I think for us is we don't just look at, a center leader or sorry, a preschool teachers moving up to become a preschool and beginning preschool to be a preschool, but we're also looking at people who can join the quality assurance department that will go under another HQ function. So we're also looking at people who can become pedagogists. That means they are very grounded and passionate about how children learn. They want to discover and plan curriculum and programs for the children to thrive in their thinking and holistically. So there are a few functions that we look at. So one is the quality assurance, another one is the pedagogies, and we are also looking at, for example, some teachers are really passionate. They want to actually work with children with needs. So we also have the learning support educator route where teachers can actually take on another specialist diploma with the schools so that they can eventually go on to become a special needs educators. That's another possibility. So the last one that we're also looking at is, some of us become, for example, Malay educators. That means they hosted mother tongue. So instead of becoming just an English teacher that most of us do, they can actually venture into becoming a full cikgu. That means they work with the children and they use their mother tongue to work with the children in the classroom.
Okay, so actually, Lorna, this second question kind of builds on this first one, which is that it's by Seek Max, there's no name given, but they ask, does a segregated organization have the resources for a teacher's assistant to become a professional teacher or leader? So in other words, a similar idea of upskilling, of developing in terms of career. How can KLC support this endeavor?
Okay, for KLC, we have an academic department, okay? Academic department primarily comprises of trainers, we have practicum supervisors, we have got course coordinators, we have got counselor. So importantly, if you look from the high level, okay, high level meaning you are very ambitious, okay? Other than just stay at this level at operation in the typical, childcare setting, oh, I want to move up. Eventually, one day, I want to be a trainer. I really, have this passion to train adults now, not young children, adults, okay? So therefore, KLC, in terms of KLC, we do have an ACAD department where we do have openings to be a trainer, practicum supervisor, so on and so forth. So definitely, there's opportunity if they want to go up to this level of becoming a professional adult trainer. So there's definitely an opportunity at KLC in that sense, because KLC don't run preschool.
So can you then, for instance, you work as a teacher's assistant, can you revisit, can you go back to training and then jump back into your employment? Is this also an option?
Sorry, come again. So, but for trainers level, definitely there are also prerequisite qualifications, years of experience, plus, at least maybe, this is the ACDA requirement, masters in early childhood, so it's very high level. So it depends on the individual. So if you are going that direction, you will continue to upgrade, continue to acquire higher and higher qualification so that you plan yourself ahead. One fine day, I want to be a certified trainer. In that sense, it has to be endorsed by ACDA.
Okay, sure. First of all, I'd like to just take this moment. Do we have any questions from the floor? No? Are we okay? In which case, we will continue with the Mentimeter questions. So one of the people in the audience asked, or indeed virtually asked, given the challenge of managing both people and children, what would you like to see in the future of early childhood? So maybe just to translate this question a little bit, of skills or abilities would kind of help in this arena of dealing with both the very, very young and their parents?
I think it's probably communication skills. I think communication skills is something that some of us naturally comes better with. We are able to connect with a wide group of people. I think even with children, right? When I try to talk to my, different age group of children, there are some children who naturally wants to crawl to you or who naturally wants to, ask about your day and just want to talk to you. There'll be some children who are naturally observing you first to see, what are you talking to with other friends that they have in the classroom. So I think some of us are natural. We naturally have very good communication skills. It's the same thing with parents. If parents, we are able to actually converse and build our relationship. Naturally, we will have a trusting relationship with parents. And when we communicate probably an incident that happened in the classroom, they are ready and more receptive to understand why the incident took place in the first place.
So I'd like maybe just to round out this Q&A with a question from me, which is that if you were to describe your ideal candidate, the ideal teacher that you would want to hire or that you would want to train, what would that person look like? So actually, maybe we'll start with you, Lorna. In terms of training, you've gone through the process. What does the ideal student or the ideal teacher that you've created, trained look like?
Okay, I think importantly, the person must be very, very open, really open, in the sense that you have to meet parents, you have to work very closely with your colleagues. Okay, because I think to add on, interpersonal skills is very, very important. Your relationship, because it's all about teamwork, team building, And importantly also, this collaboration, not only from within, you have to collaborate with the outside, the community, because you've got to really bring the children to the community to be exposed to libraries, all the events, So this collaborative skills in the person. Organization skill also very important, because as a teacher, you have to be a very highly effective organizer, because it's very, I should say, systematically, your duty roster, everything planned nicely. You have to watch time. You have got to be organized enough to make sure that you can finish your job in that sense.
Sure. And Angeline, for you, you see this person, you want to hire them. What do they look like?
I think for a start, when I talk to the person, right, you will notice there's a spark in the eye when you talk about children. So I think it's about passion. I think a lot goes back to a core value of a person, because when the core values align with the company core value, most of the thing naturally flows. I think it's about integrity. Maybe my focus is more so about the core value of the person. Like if you have passion with children, whether you have the integrity to do the right thing when there's no one watching you. And also there's actually a sincerity that you want to work with the children. You want to work with families, you want to work with community partners, your colleagues, your center leaders. So I think these three core values are something that I usually hear, and I usually ask the candidate, if you can give an example of how you have actually experienced or exhibit this core value in your past experience of work, what example would you give me? So he's asking a very specific example of how do you display this value in your course of work that helps me to identify a suitable candidate that will work well and align well with the organizational belief.
Okay, thank you very much, Angeline. Thank you very much, Lorna. Ladies and gentlemen, if we could please give our two guest speakers a round of applause. And actually, I'd like to just take this moment, the next thing we're going to hear from is a sharing from CCP. So for those of you who are interested in changing careers, this will be a resource that you will definitely want to tap into. And our guest speaker is in fact Miss Lorna. So ladies and gentlemen, please give Miss Lorna a round of applause as she introduces CCP.
Okay, now I think tonight we are here to explore, to find out more. So basically, this is a very interesting area to look at, especially we are targeting people for who? Out there, okay? So happened that this CCP Career Conversion Program is an initiative from the WDA, okay? So WDA, so generally there are many different industry, different sector, but for the early childhood sector is also identified career conversion program, because we need the skill, we need the qualified people to enter the sector. Okay, so if we are looking at people who are currently unemployed, so looking around to really want to establish whether are you keen to join a new sector. So you may want to consider early childhood. If you happen to have all those things that we share with you, that you are fully aware now, then you think about it. Then career switcher, we have career switcher in the sense that they are currently holding a job, but they think that for whatever reason, personal reason, they're going to move on, okay? They want to change their career. They can also take a look at the early childhood sector. And just now I mentioned about the homemakers. Of late also, we have a lot of homemakers where their children are growing up independent, but they are serious enough to also want to enter the workforce. They want to get a job. So it's also a very, relevant, especially homemaker. They have been staying home for maybe many, many years to take care of young children. And now they're seriously wanting to convert, wanting to move on to work. They can consider early childhood sector. Okay, so to summarize, just now what we are sharing, basically these are all the traits that we are looking at for early childhood educators. Okay, so generally you think about it, all these are important enough. So when you go for the interview, so these are the attributes that the principal will be looking for. Okay, this is the part that you may want to consider at this point now. ECDA, Early Childhood Development Agency, they are the local licensing authority to actually registered childcare centers and at the same time to registered certified teachers. Okay, so generally these are the three category of certified teachers that you can look at. So if you happen to be very inspired, you're keen to work with very young children. Young children means you want to be a certified trained infant care educator. So your focus very only towards the very young one, 2 months to 18 months. Okay, so you can be a certified infant care teacher if you sign up for the infant care course. Infant care certificate course. Then we also do have another early years educator. Just now, you may note, we call it EY1 and EY2. Infant care teachers, they are registered as early years level 1. Then early years educator is EY2. Why EY2? Because the age group coverage is broader, 2 months all the way to 3 years old. EY2. So in terms of the EGDA certification, you can be EY1 or EY2. Now, then however, if you are very keen to really have a very broad spectrum of ages, 8 months or 18 months all the way to 6 years old, preschool educator is another high-level category. You can become a preschool certified teacher as well. So most importantly, like at the upfront, I mentioned about the course entry requirement. Okay, so EGDA is very, very stringent in terms of like certification of teachers. So in order to come on board to be a certified teachers, you definitely need to have, number one, you need to have a formal schooling. You need to be having a formal schooling, meaning at least formal education, secondary education and above. So minimum level, Sec 2. Okay, Sec 2, if you happen to have like Sec 2 level, can I join the workforce? Yes. But on top of that, the second requirement, language proficiency requirement. Then importantly, if you happen to be doing the English program, you need to take a test, okay? English language proficiency, either if you happen to be an O-level grad and you have already passed your English language, C6 is a credit, minimum pass is C6. You can definitely enter into the early childhood program. You decide on the course level that you want to do. Okay. However, for those secondary education or for those even I'm an O-level but I fail my English, you still need to definitely go for a test. Okay. You either do the workplace literacy if you are thinking of a lower level, certificate level. But if you intend to do the diploma level, minimum 5.0, 5.0, and at least you need to have a B4 for teacher certification. So alternatively, you can do another test, okay? We call it the IELTS. All these tests, the test provider is British Council. You can actually Google and then go into the portal to look at the tests. So these are the two very important certification you must have before you can register, before you can join the course or you decide to join which level of course. Chinese, they also have a requirement. Chinese is a Chinese, they call it from China, the system is 汉语水平考试. It's also a formal language examination proficiency. Okay, now coming back to CCP. So if you have got two choices out there, you either, if you're very keen to work and study full-time, Okay, seek employment, work and study full-time. You are being paid while you are studying. You are being sponsored by the company. Then you can embark on this career conversion program. Okay, so generally, these are all the eligibility criteria set up by the WSG. If people who don't meet all these criteria, you are not eligible to do the career conversion program. But you can still study. You study on another different mode, self-funding. Government has got, WSG has got funding for different categories, Singaporean, Singapore PR. So you can also come on board as a self-fund application. You can do that, okay? So therefore, for career conversion program, this criteria, importantly, you have to sign a CCP application self-declaration form. You have got to sign, you have to take, sign all this that you declare, okay, that you have got to fulfill. Okay, importantly, I want to highlight, many a times we have got a fresh grad calling us, poly grad. So after poly, immediately they want to embark on early childhood. Unfortunately, cannot. Why? Because they have to, at least after 2 years of their so-called graduation, then they can come on board to do a CCP, what you call that, application. Okay, fresh graduate is not allowed. It's after 2 years of working somewhere else, then you can rejoin you can so-called change your work to enter the early childhood sector. Because CCP stands for career conversion, meaning to say you have to be already in other previous career before you can come on board to do the CCP. But if I happen to be a fresh grad, less than 2 years, you cannot come CCP. But you can still come and study under self-fund. Okay, self-fund, no problem. Whatever academic qualification you have, you can apply under self-funding, government will support. As long as you are 21 years old, government will support you with the cost fee funding. Okay, so these are the criteria, just take note. Okay, I just give you an idea. Course application processes, if you're keen, first thing you need to do, you know which course you decide to pick it up. You have to complete KLC, we have an online application. You have to do the online application. And then inside this online application portal, you have got to get ready your PDF copies of your required documents, your IC, your academic cert, whatever, requirement, relevant cert, you have got to get it done. Okay, you submit. Then after your submission, after your online application, then there's a application fee, 87.20. You have to pay application fee. After payment, then we will facilitate to help you to do job matching. We'll send a resume. In fact, we can give you a sample copy of the resume, send it to the prospective employer, and then, depending on the company, if they happen to have vacancy, the likelihood of them calling you is there. They'll call you for interview, and after the interview, they may also want to make arrangement for you to do work trial. Okay, at least you know exactly what you are coming in for. Okay. Yeah, then, so after that, if you are being so-called selected after the work trial, then the employer will definitely need to send you for pre-employment checkup, medical checkup is a requirement by ACDA. ACDA require all the so-called trainees to go for the medical checkup. Why? It's not a normal health screening. It's basically the checkup is primarily to confirm whether you have children-related the infection disease. Very important. Example, you have to do an X-ray to make sure that you are TB-free. Very important. Number two, the other rest is quite straightforward. Whether you have to declare to the doctor or the GP, chickenpox, chickenpox and also the measles. So all these are very serious children disease that you don't happen to have the immunity, you will spread on to the young children. Okay, so this is a prerequisite. Even though you are going under the self-fund, you still have to do it also. Okay, then if you clear your medical checkup, then the employer will come back to you to offer you the employment contract. So coming back to your employment contract, take note, as a trainee teacher, you will be paid. Okay, you are like their full-time staff, you are being paid, but your category is called trainee teacher. So trainee teacher, I give you an idea. If you are doing certificate level, entry baseline is like 2,000, 2,002. Half day work, half day study. Let's say you happen to be on the morning session you study, afternoon you go to work. And then if you happen to be morning class, afternoon you go to work, and the vice versa. Okay, so basically so therefore you are being paid full-time salary, paid full-time salary, but on the course start date, you have to sign the contract. The contract is basically the terms and condition in the contract is already mutually discussed between you and the employer. And I give an idea, at least after the successful completion of your course, you at least need to stay on for another 1 more year. Depends on the company, some may ask for more. Okay, so this is open. We leave it to the trainee and the employer to negotiate, to discuss. Okay, so KLC, as far as we are concerned, we are independent. We are not involved in your hiring processes, your whatever terms and conditions stipulated in the contract. But there's a baseline, salary baseline stipulated by the government. Certificate level is 2000, 2002. Diploma level definitely is higher. So the diploma level around 2005, around there. Okay. So anyhow, but that's not I share with you. The baseline by the government, I think certificate level is 1009. But it depends on the company. Because the company, very important, they will assess your background. So whether you bring into this work environment your relevant skill, people skill or whatever, whatever other attributes you have. So they will evaluate. Okay, but you definitely cannot ask for like similar to your previous so-called salary. No way. Previously, I draw 3,000. Now I do a career switch to early childhood. Can I ask slightly higher? I mean, slightly the same? No way. Okay, so it's in a way you have to be mindful of the salary. It's a very different category. All right, okay. So bear in mind. So what happened is for KLC, we have a KLC website. You can go in there to see all the course calendar, all the intake coming up. Then you decide. We have a listing of the intake, the various intake for the first half of the year. It's all there. Okay, so I think this is the last slide. Okay, so finally, okay, so if you want to follow up with me, you can actually apps me, or at the same time, you can scan for inquiry, fill in the form, whatever that courses you want to know or whatever, you can just put it in and then we will respond to you. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Lorna. So we'll just keep this up on the screen for a few moments so you can scan, for those of you who are interested. So just to recap, we had a dialogue with some industry leaders. You've heard now about CCP, and I'd also like to redirect you to some of the resources available by SEEK themselves. There's some wonderful resources available online for those of you who want to fine-tune some skills, for instance, resume writing, interview technique. You can find that at the SEEK website as well. So with that, we're going to actually end tonight's session. Thank you so much for joining us. And before you go, if you could all do me a favor and scan this QR code just so that we could get some feedback on the event as well. And that can inform our future events and perhaps inform some of the topics that you guys will